I've spoken about this type of book a lot over the years, but I've never actually sat down and shown you the full process in one place, from what's working to why it works to how you would go and create one yourself. And the reason I want to do that is because it's one of those areas where people either completely overcomplicate it or they just avoid it altogether because they assume it's too hard. But when you break it down properly and you understand how these are actually put together, it starts to feel much more doable and a lot more structured than you might expect. So that's what I want to do in this video. I want to walk you through it properly, step by step, so you can see exactly how this works and how you would approach it yourself. Now, if you are new here, I'm Caroline. I'm a self-publisher who has been creating and selling books on Amazon KDP for over 7 years, and on this channel I show you how to do the same. If you've ever looked at the books that do sell well on Amazon and thought, surely that is not as simple as it looks, activity books are one of the best examples of that. They are the kind of books that people buy every single day for children, for gifts, for holidays, for road trips, for rainy afternoons at home, and sometimes they just want something that feels useful and fun and easy to say yes to. They're simple in the best way. They solve a clear problem, they have a clear purpose, and they fit into everyday life so naturally that people don't spend ages thinking about whether to buy them or not. Activity books are one of those niches that can look really small from the outside until you really start looking at it and start paying attention to it. This is a huge category with so many different directions that you can take it in, and it works so well for people who want to build a real book business because these books are repeatable, expandable, and surprisingly versatile. One good idea can turn into a series, one theme can turn into 10 different books, one book type can turn into an entire brand if you approach it properly. So in this video, I want to walk you through how to create activity books, but I also want to do more than that. I want to show you why this niche is so strong in the first place, why these books keep selling, what successful self-publishers are doing that makes their books stand out, and how you can use that information to create your own books in a way that feels smart and strategic instead of just random. I also want to show you how this fits into the bigger picture of building a self-publishing business, because this is one of those areas where it's very easy to start with one book and then realize that you have something much bigger in your hands. If you are somebody who wants to create books that people genuinely want, and you want a niche that feels practical, scalable, and full of opportunity, this is a really good one to understand. Before we get into the actual process of creating an activity book, I want to start with why this publishing model is so attractive in the first place, because I think this actually really matters. It's really easy to get caught up in the mechanics of making a book and forget why so many people are drawn to self-publishing on Amazon to begin with. The reason is that you're not trying to convince people to come to a website they have never heard of and buy something from a stranger. You are putting your product into one of the biggest shopping platforms in the world, where millions of people are already searching for things to buy. The traffic is there, the customer trust is there, the search engine is there, and the buying intent is there. You are also working with a print-on-demand model, which means that you're not ordering boxes of stock and storing them in your garage. You're not paying upfront for hundreds of units and then hoping they sell. When somebody buys your book, Amazon prints it and sends it. This gives you so much more flexibility, especially if you're building this around family life or you're fitting it into small gaps throughout your day. You can create one book, publish it, and then move on to the next. Over time, that builds into a series and a catalog, and that catalog becomes a collection of assets that can keep working for you. That is one of the best things about self-publishing books. You're not creating something that just disappears after 24 hours. You're building products that stay there, keep showing up in search, and keep making sales over a long period of time. Now, when you combine that business model with activity books, things get really interesting because activity books sit in such a strong part of the market. They're easy to understand, which matters a lot more than people realize. A customer can glance at the cover and immediately know what the product is for. There is no complicated explanation needed. It's an activity book for kids aged 6 to 8, or it's a dinosaur maze book, or it's a word search for adults, or it's a travel activity book for kids. The product makes sense instantly, and that clarity helps sales because people buy what they understand. These books also fit naturally into the way that people shop. Parents are always looking for things to keep kids occupied. Grandparents are always looking for gifts that feel useful and enjoyable. Teachers and homeschoolers are always looking for more resources. Adults buy puzzle and brain game books for themselves all the time as well. Then you have seasonal demand layered on top of that. Summer holidays, Christmas, Easter, road trips, school breaks, airplane rides, stocking fillers, classroom awards, birthday gifts. Activity books slide into all those buying moments so easily because they're practical, affordable, and appealing. Another reason that they do so well is they offer a really strong sense of value. When someone buys an activity book, they're not buying just one single experience. They're buying page after page after page of things to do. It feels full, it feels useful, it feels like it would last, and that feeling matters. A book with a strong cover and a clear promise, packed with puzzles or activities that match what the buyer wants, is a very easy purchase to justify. What I also love about this niche is how broad it is. People usually hear activity books and think one very specific kind of children's book, but the niche is much bigger than that. You have maze books, word searches, dot-to-dot books, hidden pictures, logic puzzles, spot the difference books, mixed activity books, coloring and activity combinations, educational activity books, preschool learning books, themed holiday books, travel activity books, brain games for adults, and memory games, trivia books, and so much more. And once you start layering in themes, age levels, skill levels, educational focus, seasonal focus, you realize very quickly that you are not dealing with one niche. You're dealing with a huge collection of sub-niches, and that gives you room to build. That is important because the people who do well with books like this are not usually relying on one random book to carry everything. They're usually building in a much more thoughtful way than that. They find a lane that works and then they keep going. If a certain type of book performs well, they create more around that target customer. If a certain theme is popular, they build a series. If they find a format that customers respond to, they repeat it across different niches. That is where activity books really shine because they are so easy to expand once you understand the structure behind them. When you look at successful books in these niches, the patterns are actually very clear. Before we look at these, I've done a very broad search for the term activity book, and there are all sorts of different activity books coming up. There's a How to Draw Everything activity book. This book has a bestseller rank of 35, which means it is actually one of the best-selling books on Amazon, and it makes around $70,000 per month. We'll keep scrolling through and you can start to look at all the different themes, topics, and types of activity books that we have under this niche, and you might start to see the potential and how much opportunity that there is here. This activity book here, Ultimate Activity Book for Kids Aged 6 to 8, has a bestseller rank of 2,811. That means this one makes around $3,500 to $4,000 per month in royalties. And this one, the Ultimate Activity Book for Smart Girls, this one has a bestseller rank of 559, which means it makes close to $15,000 per month in royalties. And there is so many more just as successful as these three books. Also, these three books are self-published. They're not being created and sold by some big brand or a big publisher. So I just really hope you can see the potential here for self-publishing books in this niche on Amazon. Now, heading back to the search results, the first thing you notice is that the books are usually very specific. They're not trying to be for everybody. They know exactly who they are for. The cover reflects that. The title reflects that. The interior reflects that. If it is a book for younger children, everything about it feels age appropriate. If it's a themed book for a child who loves unicorns or dinosaurs or outer space, the theme is obvious right from the front cover. If it is an adult puzzle book, the packaging feels different. It feels clean, direct, made for that customer. The reason that kind of clarity makes a huge difference is because it helps the right customer recognize the book quickly. That is such a big part of selling on Amazon. People are scrolling through search results, seeing lots of options, making very fast decisions. A book that clearly communicates exactly what it is, who it's for, and why it's so appealing has a much better chance of getting clicked. The next thing that you notice is that successful activity books tend to feel complete. They don't feel thin or random or rushed. The customer gets the sense that there is plenty to do inside. There is enough content to justify the purchase, and the book feels worth having. That can come from page count, from activity variety, from a strong theme carried all the way through, or from a combination of those things. It's really about perceived value. You'll also see a lot of books that are part of a wider range, even when it's not obvious at first glance. A self-publisher creates one maze book, then another with a different theme, then another for a different age range, then a mixed puzzle version, a seasonal edition. The series grows naturally from the original idea, and this is where you start to see how a real business can form around what seems like a very simple product. The simplicity is actually one of its strengths. It makes it easier to repeat, easier to refine, and easier to build on. Now, I do think one thing worth saying here is that the success of these books is not coming from some secret trick. It's simply coming from the fact that it matches what customers want and they're packaged in a way that makes the value obvious. This is what you really want to understand if you are serious about making these books properly. You don't need to overcomplicate the process. You need to understand the buyer, the niche, and the structure of a good product. So let's talk about that customer for a second, because I think this is where a lot of people get stronger results. The easiest way to create a better activity book is to think more carefully about the person buying it and the person using it. And those are not always the same persons, particularly in these types of niches. A child uses the book, but an adult is the one purchasing it. That means that the book has to appeal in two different directions at once. It has to look fun and engaging for the child, and it has to look worth paying for to the adult. That affects everything from cover design to title wording to the type of activities inside. If the book is for a young child, the adult that's buying it wants to feel confident that it's age appropriate, that it's interesting and worth the money. If it is educational in some way, that can make it even more appealing, because then the purchase feels both fun and useful. If it's for travel or holidays, the adult wants something that will actually keep the child occupied. If it's a gift, they want something that looks polished and thoughtful. That is why packaging matters so much in this space. These are practical books, but they are still emotional purchases in their own way. People are imagining their child enjoying it. They're imagining the quiet time, the entertainment, the learning, the gift being opened. A good activity book taps into that. This is why themes really work in this niche. Themes make books feel more exciting and feel more personal. A generic puzzle book is one thing. A dinosaur puzzle book for a boy aged 6 to 8, or a cute animal activity book for girls aged 4 to 6, or a Christmas road trip activity book feels so much more specific and much more appealing to the person shopping. Themes help customers imagine exactly who the book is for and why they want it. They also help you create multiple books once you find a format that works, because the structure stays similar while the surface idea changes. And that brings me to one of the biggest opportunities in activity books, which is series potential. If you create one strong book around a format and a customer that works, you can build it out from there. You can create the same style of book around different themes. You can create books for adjacent age groups. You can make holiday editions. You can combine activities in new ways. You can create companion books. This matters so much because the people who make this work are not constantly starting from zero. They're building on what they already know. And this is where the business side of it starts to become really exciting, because instead of thinking I need one perfect book, you begin thinking I just need one strong starting point. That shift makes the whole process feel so much more realistic and much less intimidating. Your first book is not carrying the entire weight of the future of your self-publishing business. It's giving you data, experience, and it's giving you momentum. Then you use that to keep building. Now, let's get into the actual process of creating an activity book, because once you understand the opportunity, the next question always is, how do I actually make one properly? The first step is choosing your niche. And I mean properly choosing your niche, not just picking something random because it feels cute. You want a niche that has a clear buyer and a clear reason for existing. It can be based on age, theme, learning goal, activity type, or season, but it needs to make sense as a product someone would actually search for and buy. If you choose a niche with a clear audience, a clear target customer, everything gets easier after that. Your cover becomes easier to design. Your title becomes easier to write. And your interior becomes easier to design and plan out, because you're not trying to create something for everybody. Once you know the niche, the next step is deciding exactly what kind of book you're making. Is it a maze book? Is it a mixed activity book? A word search book? A hidden picture book? Or a preschool learning activity book? This is important because the format shapes the whole experience of the book. A mixed activity book has a different kind of energy from a single format puzzle book. One feels more varied, the other can feel more focused and clean. And neither is better in every situation. It just depends on the customer and the purpose of the book. After that, you want to plan your book as a product. I think this step gets skipped far too often, and it shows. You want to think about page count, activity flow, difficulty level, solutions if needed, the front matter, back matter, and how the whole book will feel from the very first page to the last. If it's for young children, are the activities simple enough and visually easy to understand? If it's a puzzle book, Does the difficulty level progress in a way that feels satisfying? If it's a themed book, does the theme carry through consistently enough that the whole thing feels cohesive? This planning stage is what makes a book feel intentional instead of just thrown together. Then you create the activity pages themselves. And this is where tools can save you a huge amount of time. If you are trying to make every single puzzle or activity manually from scratch, the process gets very slow very quickly. You will lose interest very quickly, especially if you want to build multiple books or a whole series. That is why something like the Puzzle Apps membership is so useful for this kind of niche. It gives you access to puzzle and activity book tools that can help you actually create these interiors for these books in a much more efficient way. And this is one of the reasons I like talking about it in the context of activity books, because it fits so naturally into the workflow. You choose your idea, decide what sort of activity book you want to make, and then use the tools inside the membership to generate the kinds of activities that fit into that concept. So, for example, if you wanted to create a children's mixed activity book around an animal theme, you could use the different tools to create different types of puzzle pages that all fit the same overall idea. If you wanted to create a word search book or a maze book or another puzzle-based format, you can build those interiors much faster and more consistently than trying to piece everything together manually. That helps so much when you are serious about publishing more than one book, because speed matters, but consistency matters even more. You want interiors that look clean, feel professional, and fit the product you're trying to create. A good tool helps you do that without spending all your energy on the technical side. What I also like about using tools in this kind of niche is that they free you up to spend more time on the parts that actually move the needle in a publishing business. Niche selection matters, audience targeting matters, cover design matters, positioning matters, your overall series strategy matters. Those things are where so much of the growth happens. So if you can make the creation process smoother, you give yourself room to think properly about the business side of what you're doing, not just the mechanics of building pages. Once your interior is created, the next step is putting the book together in a way that feels polished. That means organizing the pages properly, adding any title pages or introduction pages you want, including solutions at the back of the book if it needs them, and making sure that the files are all formatted correctly for Amazon KDP. Again, this is one of those areas where a little more care goes a long way. Customers notice when a book feels complete. They notice when the layout is neat, the pages are easy to use, and the whole thing just flows properly. That extra care helps the book feel like a real product, and that is important for customer satisfaction and for reviews over time. Then comes the cover, and this is such a big one. In many cases, the cover is doing all the heavy lifting when it comes to getting the click. On Amazon, your cover is not just sitting on a shelf in a physical bookshop where someone can come and pick it up and flip through it slowly to see what's inside. It's appearing as a thumbnail in the search results. It needs to be clear and appealing and instantly understandable. This is why a lot of successful activity books use straightforward titles and covers that communicate to target customer and theme immediately. You don't need something overly clever. You need something that makes sense. A parent searching for an activity book for their child needs to see your cover and know straight away that this is relevant. This is also where a lot of beginners leave money on the table, because they spend so much time thinking about the inside of the book and not enough time thinking about how the book is presented. The book can be great inside. It can be the best activity book ever, but if the cover doesn't get the click, the customer never sees the interior. That is why clear packaging matters so much in this niche. It's not about flashy design. It's about communication. The best covers in this niche make the product feel obvious, useful, and attractive all at the same time. After the cover, you upload the book into Amazon KDP, and this is where your title, subtitle, keywords, and categories come in. These details are important because they help the right buyers find your book. Again, clarity is your friend here. Activity books are one of those niches where being straightforward usually works very well, because customers are usually searching for exactly what they want. They're not on their browsing in a vague way. They're typing in things like kids maze book, dinosaur activity book, word search for adults, travel activity book for kids, or preschool learning workbook. The clearer you are, the easier it is for the right customer to find you. Now, I do just want to step back from all the mechanics just for a moment and talk about why this can grow into something really meaningful, because I think this is actually one of the most exciting parts. Activity books are not just a good beginner niche because they're relatively approachable. They're also a strong long-term niche because they give you so many different ways to expand. That is a huge difference difference. Some products are easy to make once, but quite difficult to build an actual business around. Activity books are not like that. They have room in them. They have series potential. They have seasonal potential. They have niche potential. They have brand potential. If you create one successful book around a strong target customer, you can create another and another and another. You can branch out into related formats, related themes, related age groups. You can create books that sit together in a series. You can test what performs best and then use those insights to guide you to what you do next. And over time, you stop guessing so much because you're building from real experience. That is one of the most satisfying parts of this business. You learn by doing, and then you turn what you learn into more products. And once you start building that series, it makes sense to treat it like a real brand, not just a handful of book listings on Amazon. That is where having your own website becomes really valuable, because you want a home base outside of Amazon too. Somewhere that you can show your books, talk about your brand, build an email list if you want to, and even offer things like digital products alongside your physical books later on. That is why a tool like Hostinger fits so well if you are building this properly. With their AI website builder, you can create a clean, professional website for your activity book brand without needing to be a web designer or spend weeks trying to figure out the technical side of things. You can just describe your brand that you're building, the audience or the target customer that it's for, and the products that you plan to offer, and it helps you get the website set up and running so much faster. I think that is especially useful if you are at the stage where you know you want this to be more than one book. A website gives you a home for your bigger vision, and it helps turn your books into a real brand that people can recognize and come back to. I personally use Hostinger to create my websites because it is beginner friendly, and it includes that AI website builder that helps you get something live very, very quickly, even if you have never built a website before. One of the reasons I do like this tool for self-publishers is that you don't need to know how to design a website. You don't need to write any code. As I said, you just describe the kind of publishing brand you're building, whether it's activity books, whether it's educational workbooks, drawing books, coloring books, and the builder creates a full website layout for you. And there is another reason that I like this for activity book creators specifically. Once you start making these books, there is often a very natural expansion into things like printables, worksheets, bonus resources, downloadable packs, or extras that all connect to your books on Amazon. Having your own website gives you room for that sort of thing. It gives you room to grow beyond a single platform and start building something that feels more established and more long-term. Let me show you how it works. Go to Hostinger using the link in the description. Now, this is actually the best time to set your website up because they have some incredible New Year's sales that have been extended right through into March. And although it will depend on when you are watching this video, they currently have 84% off, plus an additional discount if you use my special code down in the description box below. We're going to select the business website builder plan because that'll give us access to the AI website builder and the option to add an online store so we can sell any additional products down the track. To get the best price possible, you do want to choose the 48-month plan. Also, Hostinger does have a 30-day money-back guarantee, which is great to know. Something else that's really helpful when you are creating your self-publishing brand is that Hostinger includes a free domain name for the first year. And you could choose a .shop extension for your website. So instead of needing to find a .com that hasn't already been taken, which can be quite difficult these days, you can choose something like yourbrandname.shop, which instantly tells people what your website is all about. It's clear, it's easy to remember, and it works really well if you are going to be selling printables, educational resources, additional physical products, or even physical books directly from your website in the future. It also helps create a little bit of separation between your brand and sort of like a general information style of website, because when someone lands on a .shop domain or .shop website, they already understand that this is a place where they can browse and buy products. So if you are thinking longer term about building a connected publishing brand with additional products around your books, having your own website with a domain name that reflects that just makes everything feel so much more professional from the start. One little tip, avoid naming your website after one specific book. Think broader, think about the niche or the customer you're serving, not the product itself. You want a name that is still going to make sense after you've published 20 or 50 or more books in the future. Once you've chosen your domain name, you'll be able to enter it in a moment during the setup phase of creating your website. For now, as I mentioned, I have a coupon code that will get you an additional 10% off. So make sure to pop that in before you check out to get the best price. We'll just need to fill in some personal details to complete everything, but then we are ready to start building our website. And don't worry if you have no idea about how to build a website. This AI website builder makes it so easy. Let me show you. We're just going to go set up our hosting, and we're just going to go through and answer a few questions. We're going to be creating a new website. We want to use the hosting a website builder. You just need to enter the domain name that you'd like to use. And if you have selected the 48-month hosting plan, you will get it free for the first year. And this is where you pop it in and take advantage of that. So I'm going to pop in my AI prompt for my activity book brand called Bright Path Activity Company. And once we enter that prompt, the AI website builder is going to build your entire website in literally 20 to 30 seconds. It is crazy how fast this creates your website for you. So our website has been created. You can have a quick browse through. If you would like the AI website builder to regenerate your website, you can do that. Otherwise, if you're happy, you can continue on and finish setting up your website. So you can actually customize every single part of it. We can change the colors to match your branding. You can change any of the fonts to match your branding. You can change any of the content, any of the text that the website builder has included here to match your branding, style, and tone. You can include pages that introduce your books, explain who they're for. You can add that online store to sell additional related products like digital downloads. You can even collect email subscribers who do want to hear about your future book releases. So these things, these pages and these features will have already been automatically created for you when you entered your website's description into the AI website builder. You can also use AI tools to help you create images for your website if you want to change up any of the images so that they do more match your brand or your style or your tone. You can even use the AI tools to help you add additional content. So let's say you did want to add blog content to give even more value, even more content to your customers, but you don't feel that you have the time or you don't have the writing skills to write blog posts. There is an AI tool that can help you create blog posts for you. One mistake that people make with websites is thinking everything needs to be perfect before they launch. It doesn't. Your website will evolve as your business evolves. You can add pages later, you can change wording later, you can refine your brand later. It is incredibly easy and quick to use, and it is built for people who do want something quick, clean, and professional. This is the kind of thing that helps you move from publishing single books into building a connected brand over time, which becomes more valuable the more products that you create. If you do want a website that looks good without any of the tech stress, Hosting as AI Website Builder is perfect for self-publishing beginners. I'll leave a link to it down in the description box if you do want to go check it out. Now, coming back to the books themselves, one of the smartest things that you can do in this niche is really pay attention to what makes a product worth buying. In other words, what gives a customer that feeling of, yes, this looks good, this looks useful, this feels worth it. A lot of that comes down to small but important choices. A clear audience, a strong theme, a satisfying amount of content, a cover that communicates well, a book that feels complete. Those choices make a book stronger before the customer has even bought it. And then once a customer does buy it, the experience needs to deliver on that promise. The activities need to feel appropriate for the customer or the person using it. The pages need to look tidy and easy to use. The whole book needs to feel consistent. This is one of the reasons that I think activity books are such a smart niche for people who actually care about creating things properly. A more thoughtful book really does feel better to the customer. Better products create better experiences, and better experiences help sell books over time. I also think this niche works beautifully for people who want a self-publishing business that feels creative but structured. There is creativity in choosing themes, building a brand, designing covers, and planning books that people will actually love. But there is structure, there's a repeatable product model, there's a clear audience, a clear customer, there's a clear use case, there's room to build systems around what you're doing. And this combination is really powerful because it means you're not relying on endless inspiration to keep you going. You can create with intention, and that makes it much easier to build consistently. So if you are watching this and you're thinking, that actually sounds like something I want to do, the best thing that you can do is start with one strong concept and build it properly. Choose a niche that makes sense, choose a target customer you understand, create a book that feels clear, it feels useful and well put together. Use tools that help you create efficiently, especially if you want to build more than one book. Put real effort into the cover and the product presentation, then publish it, learn from it, and keep going. That's the part that people usually underestimate. They think the whole goal is to make one book and hope that it takes off, but the real strength is in the building. It's in creating one book, then another, then another, then another, and then just gradually shaping a series that has depth and consistency. Activity books are such a good niche for that because they're not just a dead end. One good idea opens the door to so many more. And really, that's what makes this such an exciting niche to publish in. These books are useful. They're popular. They're easy for customers to understand. They fit naturally into everyday buying habits. They work across all different age groups, themes, seasons, learning goals. They're simple enough to be approachable, but rich enough to build a serious business around. When you see all of that together, it becomes really clear why so many self-publishers are drawn to them and why so many customers just keep coming back to them. If you want to create books that people genuinely want, books that have a clear purpose and a clear place in the market, activity books are such a strong place to start. And if you approach them thoughtfully, they're also such a great place to keep going. So that is how I would think about creating activity books if I were starting or growing in this niche. Start with the target customer, start with a product idea, make the book feel specific and complete, use tools to help you create efficiently, and think beyond one book from the very beginning. This is where the real momentum comes in. And if you want to build those books faster, the Puzzle Apps membership is such a useful resource because it gives you the tools to actually create interiors in a much more practical way. If you're ready to build a real self-publishing brand around your books, having your own website with Hostinger is a really smart next step too, because it gives your business a home outside of Amazon and it helps you start building something bigger. If you did enjoy this video, YouTube thinks that you might like these ones too, so please go check them out to learn more about self-publishing your own low and medium content books on Amazon. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.